Hello and welcome to Go Ballistic on a monumental weekend for Scottish football. I'm David Friel. I am joined by my colleague Ben Ramage today. Ben, we've got the transfer deadline. We've got a huge weekend of action, including the Old Firm game on Sunday. We'll start there. Celtic v Rangers, both clubs looking to do transfer business. We'll see how that pans out over the weekend. Celtic potentially breaking their transfer record for Arnie Engels. How do you see the game going? Everybody is Celtic's favourites. Is it as simple as that?
I think when you take everything into it, then yes, I think you have to look at Celtic as the favourites. You think you've got home advantage, you've got not a single Rangers fan inside that stadium. That's always obviously going to be a really tough environment to go into. You look at Celtic's record against Rangers last season. I don't think Philippe Clement has really worked out a way to outsmart Brendan Rodgers yet. I think he's going to have to try and come up with something different to try and unsettle Celtic, because they've just got all the momentum at the moment, and that's just so hard to stop, isn't it, when that team is just performing as well as they are, winning every week.
There has been upheaval in terms of players going out. Matarelli goes to Brighton for £30 million. There's guys coming in, but it seems as if Brendan Rodgers, with the players he's got at his disposal, has a good thing going in terms of just the pressing, the tempo and the passing and everything Celtic first time around under Brendan Rodgers was known for.
Yeah, and I think he's got that core group of players just playing so well. You look at McGregor and Hatate in midfield, they're just running things again, and when they're both fit and firing, they're the best partnership in this league. And I think I can see them dominating the midfield, and that's, in derby games, it's going to be exciting, it's going to be end-to-end, but ultimately the kind of midfield battle is where it is normally won, and I can just see Celtic dominating that area.
Philippe Clement, to his credit, has been pretty bullish. He says they're going to go and have a go at Celtic Park, even though they've got no fans with them. A lot will fall on Cyril Dessers again, much maligned. I think he gets a raw deal. Do you think he'll be an important player for Rangers on Sunday?
Yeah, I think he does get a raw deal. When you look at the record that he actually had last season, his scoring record was good, and it wasn't in a particularly well-functioning team for parts of the season. His hold-up play is actually really good, and I think that's going to be vital. For Rangers to get up the pitch, they need the ball to stick to him. And in fairness, he is actually very good at holding the ball in. Whether he takes the chances when they come, that's the real question, I would say, on Sunday.
And what about Philippe Clement? He's never beaten Celtic. That stat grows with every game. Mark Neal the other day was saying it will be eating away at him. Does he have to try and get a result, even a draw on Sunday?
Yeah, I think so. I think it matters to the fans a lot as well. All that belief you can have in a manager, but when you're playing your rivals, if you're not getting anything from them, it's quite hard to constantly kind of deal with that pressure. Obviously, if you could get a draw or a win at Celtic Park, it could be a launch pad for their season as well, kind of going forward.
The Champions League draw was on Thursday. A very intriguing draw for Celtic. A bit of glamour. Borussia Dortmund away, Atalanta away, Aston Villa away, Battle of Britain, and some winnable home games. Do you think it was kind to Celtic?
I don't think they really could have handpicked a better draw, to be honest. We've seen it over past years. You can get an absolutely horrible draw, 3 really difficult teams, and it's very hard to progress. I don't think they'll get a much better chance to progress to the last 16, to kind of end that wait to get through to the last 16 than this. I think the home games they've got, like you said, are very favourable, and even the kind of top tier teams that they got aren't the real giants. It's not like a Man City or a Bayern Munich that is obviously even more difficult to beat. So I think they should be really happy with that draw.
And one of the standout ones, Ben, you're a big talent army, man. John McGinn against his beloved Celtic at Villa Park. That's going to be a great game.
It's a great storyline, isn't it? And I think it'll be interesting to see how those two match up. There hasn't really been a competitive meeting between Celtic and an English team for a wee while. So interesting to see how they match up. But again, it isn't Liverpool, it isn't a Man City. Aston Villa, this is their first time in the Champions League for a while, so it'd be interesting to see how they kind of cope with the pressure as well.
Hearts will be in the Conference League. They messed up the Europa League playoff. Watched the game. Victoria Pilsen, good European pedigree, but I thought they were pretty average last night. Is that a missed opportunity for Hearts?
Yeah, no, 100%. I was there last night, and it was, it was very predictable. I think that was when you've watched Hearts throughout this season, it was a very similar performance, and it was five at the back, 2 in midfield, kind of sitting in a game that you needed to win. It just wasn't brave enough. I don't think Naismith was brave enough, and I think it really reminded me of the Scotland-Hungary game where Scotland had to win. Hearts were in the same position. They had to win. They could have taken the game to them. They could have played 4 at the back and been more attacking, and they weren't. And ultimately, he tried to change it towards the end, and immediately Hearts started playing better when they went to 4 at the back, and they brought on Blair Spill, they brought on Jan Danda. There was a bit of creativity up front, but ultimately the defence was getting tired at that point. They hit on the break and they scored. And so, yeah, it was a huge missed opportunity.
Hearts cruised to a third place finish last year, but the start of the season hasn't been good. They're out of Premier Sports Cup. Again, we spoke about the missed opportunity. League form's not been good. But a pressure on Hearts now in the next coming weeks?
Yeah, I think you could sense the atmosphere getting really sour towards the end of the game last night. I think as much as Naismith gets a lot of credit for finishing third last season, I think even just from the start of this season, you can see Lawrence Shanklin just played such a massive part in that, his goals. And the over-reliance on him, I think, was really shown last night, because with him out of the team just doesn't function. And the players coming in, I don't like singling players out, but Liam Boyce just did not look up to the standard last night. Kenny Vargas is a good young player, but if you take Shanklin out of the team, that's who you're relying on. And I'm not sure that's good enough for Hearts to get third when you look at Aberdeen improving this season as well. I'm not, a lot of people are talking to Hearts for a stick on for third, but I don't think anyone will be saying that right now.
Kilmarnock, they're also out of Europe completely. They drew with Copenhagen last night, lost 3-1 in aggregate. I think Derek McInnes said we're always going to have to punch above their weight to get past the Danish side, Champions League team last year. They're up against Hibs this weekend, and we speak about Hearts needing a win. We say it every week. Hibs really need a win as well.
Yeah, and I think looking at Kilmarnock, the difference for me was that they got applauded off the pitch by their entire stadium last night, and that just shows how much they sort of respected the effort that they put in, and what a difficult game that was against a really good Copenhagen team. So I've got a lot more faith that Kilmarnock, now that Europe has finished, they will be able to just focus on domestic and, getting back to what they were really good at last season. Like you say, Hibs, they really do need a victory. They need something to kind of spark their season, because David Gray is obviously a hero in Leith, but that won't last forever. If these poor results keep coming, these poor, performances, that he can't rely on the kind of goodwill that he's had from his past as a player, to carry him through as a manager.
The three Saturday games are Dundee, St Mirren, St Johnstone, Motherwell and Ross County against Aberdeen. Aberdeen, Jimmy Tillin, can't do any wrong. What a start he's had.
I know, he couldn't have asked for much better. And obviously you look at Ross County, the last few results, losing to Spartans, losing to Rangers heavily, I think that would be a fairly safe bet that Aberdeen could go and make that, keep that unbeaten run going. And that's going to heap pressure on the likes of Hearts and Kilmarnock, anyone that else has aspirations of finishing high up, because Aberdeen are really in danger of creating that nice little cushion, that just that early momentum will just, then if they ever have a slip up, they've got that in the bank already. So it is looking quite rosy at Pittodrie at the moment.
What do you think of his impact at Pittodrie? He's not the most flamboyant character, he's quite understated, but he's clearly a good manager, knows what he's doing.
Yeah, I think, having watched him a couple of times, I think the identity, he's really drilled that in, the way that they play with their two wingers, he really gets them going forward quickly. He's got, he likes a big target man, good striker, and I think that's what they've been lacking. They didn't really have that their last few managers. They've kind of been floating about with different systems, different players coming in and out. I think he's going to really just nail down what he wants. And I think that's the way that it can really work at Aberdeen. They've got a big budget compared to other teams. They should have that identity and they should be pushing that onto the other opposition.
Ben, thanks for your time. So much to look forward to at the weekend. I'm now joined by Jim Delahunt, the Scottish Sun's top tipster. Jim, big weekend for Scottish football. I think there's only one place to start, Celtic Park on Sunday. I think everybody probably has Celtic as favourites. Where's the value in this game?
Yeah, the value is not in backing Rangers, I don't think, David. I think most people would agree with that, the way things are going at the moment. Amazingly, you can back Rangers at 4-1 to win this match on Sunday, which is a huge price in the context of Old Firm meetings down the years, even though Rangers are the away side this week. And remember, they won 6-0 in a league match last weekend. But Celtic have been hugely impressive at the start of this season. They're trading about 8-13 on Friday. So I don't think they'll get much shorter than that, because it does seem to have settled around 8-13. Most firms going 8-13, 4-7. That's probably the value, I have to say, because I watched Celtic last week at St Mirren. They were passing the ball around with aplomb. They look a really good side yet again. I know that they're strengthening. Who knows whether they'll actually put a player into that cauldron on Sunday. But even with the team they've got, I mean, I don't know who else was watching that game at St Mirren and who might agree with me, but they didn't seem to miss Matt O'Reilly last weekend at all. The midfield seemed to work really well. They play out some beautiful football from the back. I've yet to see the new goalkeeper make a save. Schmeichel, but they seem to be going very well at the moment. I can't see Rangers causing them too many problems at Celtic Park. Difficult to see Rangers even getting the draw, which I think is trading at 100-30. So for me, it has to be the home win. It has to be the home win for Celtic, David.
Hearts were in action on Thursday night. A really disappointing result against Victoria Pilsen. They do drop into the Conference League, but they'll need to pick themselves up for a game against Dundee United. Jim, I know you quite like Dundee United. How do you see that one going?
Yeah, I was very keen on Dundee United last week to win their match, which they did. They managed to beat St Johnstone at home at 10-11. I tipped them the previous week as well to beat St Mirren at 23-20. I'm not going to go with them this week. I think that game might be a draw. Hearts were disappointing last night, but they didn't play poorly. I know Michael Stewart was getting on their backs during the game on the live TV coverage, but I didn't think they played poorly. They could have created more chances, there's no doubt about that. But defensively, despite losing that goal, I think they're pretty sound. I think Dundee United, Jim Goodwin, will be going to Tynecastle on Sunday afternoon, thinking, well, we've done well getting these wins so far. Let's put another point on the board. And I think the draw could be the value here at around 29-10, Hearts against Dundee United.
Stephen Naismith really needs a win. David Gray really needs a win on Sunday. That's a really tough one for Hibs going to Kilmarnock. I know they're coming off the back of a European game as well, but how do you see that one?
Yeah, again, I'm thinking that Kilmarnock could be solid enough to get a point here. I know it's another difficult one for Eric McInnes coming off a European game. David Gray, as you quite rightly say, David, needs a victory for Hibernian, but I can see this one being a draw as well. I can see goals in this game too. I can see a 1-1 or a 2-2 here. Kilmarnock against Hibs. The draw pays about 12-5. They're 13-8 eachy peachy about the win. But the draw, probably the value in that other Sunday match between Kilmarnock and Hibs. That's the way I'm going anyway.
Ross County have had a torrid time last couple of weeks, Jim, losing to Spartans, getting thumped by Rangers last weekend. They host Aberdeen, and it's an Aberdeen juggernaut at the start of this season. Do you think Jimmy Tilleen's fast start will continue?
I do actually, yeah. They've got 8 wins on the board, an absolutely fantastic start. It could well be 9. I noticed that Kevin Nisbet came on off the bench against Kilmarnock last week. He gives them yet another option. I think he has many more options than Ross County. I don't think, of course, it's an away game in Dingwall, but I don't think Aberdeen will be too worried about a short journey up there. I think they're good enough to win this 5:45 kickoff on Saturday night. And they're probably a bit of value as well, 21-20, because I was expecting odds on. Ross County, I said last week, Ross County had to have belief going to Hampden to give Rangers a game, and clearly they did not have that. So we'll just see if they've got any belief instilled in them against Aberdeen. But I doubt that Aberdeen will lose this one, and I'm quite willing to back them to win it as well, 21-20.
I'll be travelling to Perth myself to see St Johnstone against Motherwell. St Johnstone without their star striker, Adama Sidibe. He had a bit of a head loss last weekend against Dundee United. He's going to be out for a few weeks, double red card. They host Motherwell, who coming off the back of a brilliant win over Hearts. How do you see that one?
Yeah, I'm starting to sound as if I'm sitting on the fence in a few games here because St Johnstone Motherwell, I really do fancy for a draw. I think Craig Levein, without his, do we call him a star striker yet? Maybe we do. Without him for the next 4 games, I think Craig will be thinking shutting up shop a wee bit, especially Motherwell scoring 3 goals last week. So I'm thinking draw here, St Johnstone against Motherwell, the draw paying around 5-2, 13-5. Again, that's the way I'm going here.
The Dundee St Mirren game was an entertaining one last year. 2 clubs really going at each other, trying to get a 5th spot last year. I'm expecting a cracker again this weekend, Jim.
Yeah, I think you're quite right, David. I think it will be a cracker. It should be a really good game, but I'm big on Dundee here. I was big on them to win at Hibs last week. They ended up having to have the draw at 2-2. But Dundee, despite the fact that there may be more transfer business in and out there at Dens Park today, again, I watched St Mirren against Celtic. I think they just look a little bit tired at the moment. I think they need some fresh ideas, maybe a fresh injection of tactics as well. Dundee, I think, still with their tails up. I think odds against Dundee 11-10, 6-5 is a very good bet at Dens Park on Saturday. Dundee will be in my top 5 this weekend.
Championship, Jim, you've been running the show in the last few weeks. What takes your fancy this week after a brilliant bit of tipping last weekend?
Yeah, I was delighted. Falkirk, Aaron Hamilton combining to win at an 11-2 treble. So delighted about that. Hamilton are the team that I think are well worth putting in again this week at home to Airdrieonians. I know it's a local derby, but Hamilton odds against at 6-5. I think that's a really good bet. Ayr United away to Dunfermline, you would think would be the way to go, but odds on, I'm not that keen on Ayr away to Dunfermline. Dunfermline surely have to pick up at some point. And the other one I'm looking at, again, avoiding Falkirk away from home at Morton. The other one I'm looking at here is Partick Thistle at home to Queen's Park. They look a decent price at 5-4. So I'd nominate Hamilton and Partick for the double this week in the Championship. And I'm just looking further down at League Two, East Fife at home to Clyde. The old man got a fantastic result for East Fife away to Stirling Albion last week. Dick Campbell, he's against Ian McCall tomorrow at home. I fancy East Fife to win that one.
I think it'll be short odds and that being a quiet touchline as well, Jim. Jim, thanks as always for your time. Good luck over the weekend.
David, thank you very much.
Thanks for watching Go Ballistic. Please remember to like and subscribe to the Scottish Sun Sport YouTube channel and stay across the Scottish Sun newspaper, the Scottish Sun website and all our social media channels for the best reaction, the best news over a huge weekend for Scottish football. See you soon.